Hello, this is Hannah Frink. This recording is meant to suffice the school profile assignment for ED 789, School and Community Relations. For this assignment, I will be looking at the district that I teach in, Perham Dent Public Schools, which we so lovingly call ISD 549 here. So the Perham and Dent communities. Perham was first established in 1872. Wood buildings were constructed in that year. Interestingly enough, Perham did not really gain its name actually till 1877, and it wasn't acknowledged by the state of Minnesota until 1881. Dent was established in 1903. Both of the communities are railroad communities. Perham runs along that Highway 10 chain, which we would see. I mean, it really starts with that Fargo-Moorhead area, and then we hit Dilworth, Glendon, Holly, Lake Park, Audubon, DL, Frazee, and then eventually Perham, and it continues. Perham and Dent are home to roughly 3,200 residents respectively. Our seasonal population swells quite a bit. We see this jump anywhere from 12 to 15,000. 12,000 for sure in the Perham area. If we look at the Dent community and we combine that total, 15,000 might even be a bit conservative. Both Perham and Dent are very close-knit communities. They're located in Otter Tail County, and Otter Tail County is actually home to more than 1,000 lakes. So we are a very tourist-driven area. The school district encompasses over 400 square miles and serves students from a handful of surrounding communities. A majority of our students that are open enrolled come from the Frazee School District or the New York Mills School District. Within Perham, we have three major industries that kind of control, I don't want to say control, excuse me, function the town or help it move forward. The first is KLN. This is probably the biggest one. We have the Jennie-O Turkey Factory and Arvig. So to start looking at KLN, KLN was established, I believe, in the 1960s with Tuffy's pet food, dog food. And in time, it kind of grew these various branches. Kenny's Candy was established, Barrel of Fun was then established, and eventually bought out by Shearers, though the Barrel of Fun brand name continues. Jennie-O Turkey Plant. The mill is located in Perham, and there's turkey barns located all around the surrounding community. A lot of them closer to the Frazee School District, but they do employ quite a few people that live in Perham. Arvig is an internet provider. They also provide cable and phone lines for the area. They're kind of this huge monopoly, and it's both a good and bad thing because they provide quite a few jobs to the community, but they also dictate the price, and it's rather high. But that's just an opinion from a consumer side. Again, KLN, Jennie-O, and Arvig are the primary source for jobs for a majority of my students' parents. And so what we're going to see as we look at some of the demographics today is that these industry jobs, again, kind of drive the demographics of our student population. And it's just really interesting to look at. Some fast facts here. ISD 549 provides an education to roughly 1,500 students. We see roughly 200 employees in the district, and that includes classroom teachers, paraprofessionals, and support staff. There are three buildings which function 5 programs. The first is the Heart of the Lakes Elementary. Kids Adventure is connected to it. Kids Adventure is the preschool center. Prior to our referendum being completed, Kids Adventure actually functioned out of an old FFA building over by the fairgrounds. And we're thankful that they're finally kind of part of our little building system. So again, 5 programs, 3 buildings. Kids Adventure is connected to Heart of the Lakes, and then Prairie Wind Middle School, or PWMS, as I so lovingly call it. This is the school that I work in, and then Perham High School. And connected to the high school is the Alternative Learning Center. The ALC serves kids from surrounding communities all throughout the school year. Frazee, I think Henning, Monaga, New York Mills, possibly Battle Lake, if I'm not mistaken. And it's got a wonderful setup. The ALC director is a fantastic man. And what he has going for those kids is just, it's an endless amount of opportunity. It's very, very neat. There's various activities that are available to our students. Some academic activities include speech, knowledge bowl, FFA, robotics, science research, and fall musical. The athletic activities are kind of your standard football, volleyball, basketball, baseball, softball, track and field, cross country. Something interesting about Perham, though, is that they kind of offer an array of sports that I never grew up having. And so we see gymnastics, hockey, um, and swimming and tennis. I grew up going to the Dilworth Glidden Felton School District right outside of Fargo Moorhead, and those activities were never offered to me as a student. I think that Perham overall provides a very well-rounded um, kind of offering for activities, and kids can kind of get a variation of everything. Student demographics. Again, like I said, you're going to see some numbers here. This is from the 2020 um, count according to the state report card. So we have, over 11% of our students are Hispanic or Latino. We see a number of American Indian or Alaska Native students. The interesting thing about them listing 14 is actually it's much higher than 14. Um, a majority of the two or more races, a majority of those students are actually Native American or American Indian in classification. And I'll talk about that here a little bit more in just a second. We have 10 Asian students, 2 dozen African American students, one Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander student, and obviously then over 81% there is Caucasian. Going back to American Indian, the reason why I say that these numbers are, I don't want to say that they're incorrect, or the reason why I say two or more races when we see that number, a lot of them, again, classify as American Indian is because um, through my research as a doctoral student, when I initially started the program, I was looking at Native American education. And I spent some time really digging into what we offer to our Native American students within the Perham School District. We actually have, they call him an Indian Education Coordinator, and he works at the middle school. He's our Dean of Students, and then he takes on that role for a stipend. But what he does is he offers quite a few educational opportunities to our kids. Now, the only reason that position exists is because of funding that's provided by the state. You have to have an X amount of Native American students within your school district before you qualify for funds to not only maintain that position, but then offer things to your students. And I want to say you need to have like 26 or 32. It's some magic number in their system that they use. Like the number of kids you have dictates how much money you get. And so again, it says 14, but the last I checked, which would have been the spring of 2019, there was quite a few more listed that qualified and again provided funding from the state to the district. So again, we serve roughly 1,500 students, and it's growing. That's the really interesting part about ISD 549. We've kind of had this cyclical dip um, with enrollment. And at one point, we were in those high 17, 1800s, and then we dropped down to, 13, 1400, and we're starting to see this peak go up again. So I teach seventh grade American history, and my numbers have kind of staggered throughout the years. I think the first year I started teaching, I had 126 students. And this past year, I had 131. In this next school year, I am slated to have 150. And I teach 5 sections. And so that's 30 kids in a classroom. We're kind of realizing that we're reaching max capacity at our middle school, and we're in a bit of a kerfluffle, but I will talk a little bit more about our buildings and our setups here after a bit. So moving on, something else is student enrollment by other criteria. And again, this just kind of breaks down and looks at some of those other factors. We have 65 English learning students, 255 that qualify for special education services, and 554 that qualify for free and reduced lunch. So again, over 1/3 of our students qualify for free and reduced. Perham is considered a high impoverished or high poverty community. And I don't want to say that that's entirely because of the industries that I talked about earlier, but it is a big underlying factor. Those industries treat their employees very well, but the reality is that despite the income, it's it's that economic competition. Because we are a tourist area, there are things that are more expensive, and it varies based on the seasons, and that makes it hard for families to really thrive. The interesting part, though, about my school district is that we're very supportive, and there are so many offerings for all these different kids, and there are a variety of boosters available in order to help our students. Um, Moving forward, I just want to take a minute to show you some websites because I think it kind of gives you a better idea of what my school district really is all about. Um, so this is the brand new Perm High School. We opened during the 2018-2019 school year. We passed a very large $45 million building referendum within my second year of teaching, and it's kind of been this labor of love. Prior to that new high school, this was the original high school that kids were still in when I started in the district in what it would have been in August of 2014. A little history about this, because again, I'm a history teacher. This high school was built in 1916, so for a little bit of a history background, it was built before women had the right to vote and before the U.S. got involved in World War I. The main pillars of this building, they actually had to haul in with horses, and they did it in the wintertime and used it kind of like a sleigh in a way. The building obviously was very outdated. It still stands, but it functioned for 100 years serving our communities. And that's a really fascinating thing. There's a lot of history embedded here, and we've always been very proud of it. Again, though, we built a brand new high school. Um, there it is. In the back here is our middle school. And the interesting part is our middle school was kind of this, shining piece for the community for quite some time because Highway 10 is located off to the side here. And so as you're driving along Highway 10, one of the biggest structures that you see is the middle school that I work in. And now our middle school is kind of overpowered by this brand new high school, but the high school is absolutely beautiful. We have the Great Hall here. You have the athletic portion over here, our academic wing, the ALC, and then there's actually an industrial like technology class. And that industrial technology class, so much of the money for that particular classroom was actually funded by Kit Masters in Perham. And that's one of the other big industry plants that I left out of it. But Kit Masters, they do a variety of things like they service like clutches and things like that for big machines. Um, but as a supporter of the industrial tech program, they funded quite a bit of that building. And the things that our students are able to do is just, it's phenomenal. They have jacket manufacturing. And so they actually manufacture things for the community. The kids are learning how to run a business. A lot of them roll right into a community college. They have grants and scholarships. And it's just an amazing opportunity for our kids. Watching them grow in that has been so cool because the kids who graduated this year were actually my first class of seventh graders when I started. And so to really see them take on that role has been so cool. If you go back to our website, something that I want to talk about within the school profile assignment is our community relation. Um, One of the things that our district did when they sat down with the school board and they started creating a plan for what they wanted from our school district was that they really wanted to focus on marketing and how we are perceived by our community. Um, they've hired a few positions since then. Obviously, there's somebody who spends a lot of time maintaining this website. It's very in depth, very detailed, um, but it's so cool. This last year, they actually hired somebody to promote Perham Dent Public Schools through Facebook. And this particular individual, I have to say, she really kind of led us all through the pandemic and distance learning. She did everything that she could to engage the community and promote our students and what they were doing. We had virtual art shows. They had an online scholarship ceremony. They acknowledged, seniors who would have been in spring athletics, just all sorts of things. She created coloring pages and just did all these things for families and pushed it out through Facebook. And it really just bonded us through the chaos of distance learning, and it was wonderful. A little bit more about the community. If you have never been to Perham and you're in the mood for a quick day trip, if you live within the Fargo-Moorhead area, Perham is about an hour and 15 minutes due east of Fargo-Moorhead. And we have, it's such a neat little town. We have some specialty shops, and they just kind of offer this wide range of eclectic items. We have some really great restaurants where everything is, homemade and homegrown. And there's just a lot of pride within our community. With like in the summertime, we have Turtle Fest coming up. And we have turtle races in the summer every Wednesday, and that's kind of our thing. We're a very close knit community. We appreciate the people who come into the community in the summertime and spend their hard earned dollars on our economy, and as a result, then we see that kind of it transforms and it flows and it eventually makes its way into the public school system. One of the big things about Perham that I've really appreciated and tried to support since I started here is the 549 Family Foundation. This is kind of our district's big booster club. And through donations, they are able to not only provide scholarships to graduating seniors, but they're able to fund various projects throughout the school year. Sometimes they are paying for field trips or different technology subscriptions like BrainPop and things like that we use in the classroom. And other times it's something kind of off the beaten track. They've paid for the 3D printing pens that draw different things. They've helped pay for Spheros and drones. They have paid for, I was able to fund a Native American speaker to come in and talk to my kids and give them a little bit of a history lesson. Again, they're just all the money that they're able to get from the community, they push right back into education. And the beauty is that so many boosters fund athletics, and there's nothing wrong with that by any means. But this money goes right back into the classrooms, and that's something that's super important for this community because it provides our students with more opportunity to be a little bit more culturally diverse and see things that they wouldn't see and experience things that they always would not experience in just another general classroom, I guess. There's a lot of pride in our communities. One of the coolest things I think that has come from all of this, as I've watched Perham Public Schools kind of transform and evolve over the last 6 years, is the history and what they've done to really bring that history alive. I think one of my favorite projects that has been completed and funded through the 549 Foundation is this series of videos. And so what they did was they took the time to create videos celebrating the first 100 years of Perham High School. And they break it down. They have a video for the early years, the middle years, and then the 1980s to 2017, which is when all of this was pushed out. And we have Perham graduates from this time period that come back and obviously talk about their experience within the school system. And if there's anything that I've learned from this community is that once you're a member of this community, you are always a member of this community. And the school district, they preach it. That's one of the big things that they push and that they support. Here are the references that I have for this little presentation. If you would still like me to write a paper, I'm more than willing to do so. It's really hard for me to put into writing my feelings about ISD 549. They are everything that I never knew I needed as a teacher. They have been wholeheartedly supportive of every piece of my journey within education. And I'm very grateful to work there. Um, I look forward to sending my son to school here. He's going to have an immense amount of opportunity that I never had growing up right outside of Fargo Moorhead. And so, just tucked away along Highway 10 is this beautiful school district that offers so much to their students. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. Again, if you would still prefer I write a paper, shoot me an email. If you have any questions, email me as well. Thank you so much for your time.